burning down pretty good now. Just wasted all this time and effort. Let's give this another shot. Hello, welcome back to another episode from Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. I'm Bill, glad you could join me. Today, just a quick little video showing you guys how to make bone broth. I just finished shooting a primitive rock pit cooking video, and I cooked a Cornish game hen in there, and it came out absolutely delicious. It was so moist and tender. And I'll be posting that video here shortly. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about bone broth and some of the nutritional benefits that it has to offer. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Okay, here's the rock pit that I cooked the game hen in. Took about an hour. Had it in there about an hour and 15 minutes or so, and it was a little bit frozen in the middle, and came out really good, unbelievably good. And so next to it I've got a little fire going. That's my canteen cup, and I threw the wings and some of the knuckles, the cartilage, and the bones in there, and this is just for demonstration purposes. You can make bone broth anytime, but primitively speaking, in a long-term wilderness living scenario, say a grid down, societal collapse, whatever, you have to bug out and head to the wilderness. And of course you're going to be living off the land at that point once your supplies run out, and utilizing the resources that Mother Nature provides. Nutrition is a very important part of survival, especially long term. You can become malnourished pretty quickly, and primitive living is very labor intensive. You burn a lot of calories, so it's very important to take good care of yourself, and nutrition is a very important part of that aspect. Maintaining your daily caloric intake. Of course, you're going to have to hunt, trap, fish, etc., and forage for wild edibles. But when you cook game, a lot of people just throw the bones away. Well, you don't want to do that. There's a lot of minerals and vitamins and other important aspects that they contain, and making saving those bones right after, while you're eating, just toss them into a pot or whatever, and add some water to it and put it on the fire and let it simmer. You can let it simmer all day long, top it off with a little bit more water if it cooks down. But the idea is to simmer it so the water will extract the vitamins and minerals, the beneficial constituents, out of the material, and as the broth cooks down, it's going to become concentrated. So that is your bone broth, and then you can just strain it off and drink it and just as you would a tea, and you're going to get a lot of vitamins and minerals that you otherwise wouldn't if you just tossed the bones away. And of course, the bones can be used for a number of purposes, tools, etc. You could take the bones, you could crush them lightly with a crack them open with a rock, and before you put them in your pot or your cup, and that'll open up the bones and expose the bone marrow, and that's going to increase the release a lot of the beneficial constituents out of the bone marrow into the water, into the broth. So just be careful that it's strained, and before you try to drink it, you don't want to get a piece of bone lodged in your throat. So you got to be very careful about that. But I'm going to let this simmer. I don't have I've been up here quite a long time shooting videos, so I'm just going to let it simmer for probably about 30 minutes. Water's just now starting to steam. I don't know if the camera's picking that up. And I'll let that I'll go ahead and let this simmer for a bit, and then I'll enjoy a little bit of bone broth from that meal. And of course, you can boil game too, and it's actually a much more efficient way of cooking. A lot of people put it on a spit. They put game on a spit, and you can do that. The only problem is you have the fat, and fats are very important part of your caloric intake in a primitive living situation. You don't want to lose that fat. If you have it on a spit, the fat's going to cook out. It's going to fall down into the coals or the flames. It's going to into the coals. It's going to flame up. You're going to lose that. That's a very beneficial part of the game that you should be ingesting and not sacrificing to the fire pit. You know, if you're up just camping or whatever, that's one thing. But if I'm speaking of a long-term scenario where you're forced to live off the land, and we're entering into some. I don't think I need to convince anybody watching this video that we're living through some very strange times now, and things are getting very interesting. And we're currently in a bad situation, mass unemployment, businesses folding, etc. So I don't think I need to really go into detail to convince anybody as far as the situation we're in, and it's my opinion it's going to get worse. So I don't want to get into a bunch of politics. This is a bushcrafting channel. That's what you guys come here for, is bushcrafting. So I try to keep it there. But survival's going to come into play, in my opinion. It's going to factor into that equation. And so it's very important to know a lot of these things. And so I do teach primitive nutrition, well, nutrition anyways, but primitive nutrition as well. So you want to get extract as much of the nutrients that you can from the game that you harvest. And you know, if you're just up camping, you want to cook something on a spit or whatever, that's fine. You can even cook directly on coals. You can put a steak on coals or slab of meat or whatever. It's going to cook that way. But if you really want to get 100% of the nutritional value out of whatever it is that you're cooking, I would suggest cooking it in a container, a kettle or whatever. If you have larger game, you put it in a kettle, and simmering it down. You know, if you have a squirrel or a pheasant or whatever you happen to have, you can put it in a larger kettle and simmer it down, cook it nice and slow till the meat falls off the bones. That way you haven't lost anything, and you have a very nutritional broth there, because at the same time you're making bone broth. And you can eat the meat that way. You could add some wild foraged greens into it. You got a nice little soup slash stew going on there, and very nutritional. So Just wanted to go ahead and pass that on to you guys. A little more knowledge you can put into the bushcraft toolbox. Like I said, I'm just going to let this cook. I don't have a whole lot of time left, so I'm just going to let this simmer for about, I don't know, 30-45 minutes, and I'll enjoy it before I leave and everything. So I'll go ahead and bounce back on this video when it's done, and I'll go ahead and sign off from there. So stay tuned, I shall return. Okay, welcome back. This has been simmering now for, I don't know, probably about an hour, hour and a half. I got involved in a few other projects, so I'm going to go ahead and strain this off. Oh my God, that smells so damn good. It smells a lot like chicken soup. That's really good. You can see how it's kind of cloudy and brothy looking. Man, that is really good. I'll tell you guys, this is really, really tasty. Wow. And to think, if you throw the scraps away and the bones, you're throwing all this away. And even after you do the you make the bone broth, pull the bones out and let them dry in the sun. And I'll be doing some videos down the road on primitive tools made from bones, awls and sewing needles and knife blades, and I mean there's all types of scrapers, all types of different things that you can make from those. So in primitive living, nothing goes to waste. You utilize everything that you possibly can. That's also how you honor the animal that you harvested, and by utilizing all of its resources to the best of your abilities. And the main thing is to not be wasteful and throw stuff away needlessly. But this is really tasty. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some captions in this video covering the beneficial aspects of bone broth, and the vitamins and minerals and things like that. It's even good for your joints. The collagen and everything that cooks down from the knuckles and the ligaments is very good for our joints, and it's good for arthritis and things of that nature. Back in the old times, bone broth was something that people made quite often, and of course, as we get into the modern age, a lot of the old ways are forgotten. But in my opinion, people had to be a lot more self-reliant back in those times, and they took care of a lot of their own issues. So a lot of the old folk remedies, which largely have been discarded nowadays in favor of big pharma and toxic pharmaceuticals and things of that nature, a lot of these old folk remedies are still valid. You just have to research them. I'm an herbalist, and I study and practice the old ways, and that's a part of my background that I came from since I was a kid. And I'm happy to share a lot of this with you guys, and it's something I really love to do. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it today. And the sun's getting ready to go down. I'm getting ready to break camp, and I'm going to head back to what I call the wilderness. To me, this is civilization. Where I'm heading back to is the wilderness, or the jungle. So unfortunately, I got to work tomorrow, so I got to be up bright and early and out on the job. So Anyways, I hope all of you are having an outstanding day or night, depending on where you're located, and I will see all of you very soon on the next one. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.